It's July 2012. I'm at home sitting on the couch staring at the screen in front of me in disbelief. A man's name, telephone number and address in New York are in front of me. My heart's pounding, my mind is racing as I realise I found my birth father. I was born in the East End of London to an English woman called Sylvia, who gave me up for adoption. The way my adoptive mother told me when I was very young that I was adopted, she said, "One day Sylvia walked you through the streets with the pram, left you on the street corner and walked off. I came along and wheeled you back to live with me and your dad." Not the best way to tell a child they've been adopted. Note to self. Now, Ellen and Arthur, my adoptive parents, were typical kind of working class family living in a council flat in Dartford, which is just outside of southeast London. The year I was born, 1966, it was a very white area with not so subtle undertones of racism. I was told that my birth father was Persian and that he'd abandoned me and my birth mother. Now, my adopted mother, Ellen, was a very angry woman. I found out years later she was very resentful and bitter about her life. She regretted getting married so young and living a small life. And she took her anger and her frustrations out on me. As a young kid, whenever I'd do something wrong, she'd say things like, "You filthy little Arab, you should go back to where you came from. No wonder your real mother didn't want you." Understandably, I grew up feeling like there was something wrong with me, something very wrong, so wrong that even my birth parents didn't want me. In 1979, I was 13 and we were sitting in the lounge watching the TV and the BBC were covering the Iranian Revolution. And I remember the commentary from the BBC reporter, as well as that of my parents, being extremely derogatory. I saw the Ayatollah Khomeini on the screen and his fundamentalist mullahs, and I assumed that my birth father was one of them. I vowed right then and there I'd never look for him, I'd never have anything to do with this man. I also vowed to keep my Persian heritage a secret. If anyone asked me where I was from or about my ethnic background, I'd lie. I'd say I was half Spanish or half Italian. In my early 20s, I decided to search for my birth mother, Sylvia. I wanted to know why she'd given me up for adoption. I managed to trace her, and we met in London, just off of Bond Street in central London in a cafe, 1993. She told me that I had two sisters, one called Angela, who was 11 years older than me, different birth father, and I had a sister called Lisa, who was just 1 year older than me, and we shared the same birth father. Sylvia told me that Saeed, my birth father, was 10 years younger than she was. He was in London studying business. He was a bit of a gigolo, not the marrying kind. And he said his family wouldn't have accepted him having children outside of wedlock. She said that when she told him she was pregnant with me, he left. She assumed that he'd gone back to Iran. Again, that cemented my decision never to have anything to do with this man. Back to July 2012. The past few months have been ones of personal development and self-discovery. I've walked across hot coals at an Anthony Robbins event, devoured books like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and gone through perimenopause. Yay! Fun! Now, all this self-help stuff, it's got me curious about my birth father. So I thought, why not pop his name into Google and see what happens, do a bit of digging. So there I am, staring at the laptop screen. It's him. And there's his phone number in New York. Different scenarios go through my mind. What if it's not him? What if I just got it wrong? What if it's him, but he died? What if I call the number and he denies he's my father? What if I call the number and he admits he's my father, but says he wants nothing to do with me and never to contact him again? I'm scared to make the call, but I also realise I've come to a time and a place in my life where I'm resilient and I can handle any of those scenarios, and that the risk of not making that call is too great. So I dial the number. Hello? Hi, is this Saeed? Yes. Who's calling? Did you know a woman called Sylvia in London in 1966? Yes. Yes. Lisa, is this my daughter? No, it's not Lisa. My name's Katrina, and I'm also your daughter. Oh. He's understandably a bit shocked and a little bit sceptical. I get his email address and I send him through some photos and some documents to prove who I am. And we arrange to speak on the phone the next day. The following day, we speak for more than an hour, and something unexpected happens. We connect. We bond. This man who I've demonised for more than 4 decades is actually someone I like, and I want to get to know better. We arranged that I will go and meet him in New York. As it happens, I've booked a shadow workshop with Debbie Ford in San Diego in December of that year. And I thought, well, I'll go to New York first, meet him. If it all goes pear-shaped, I can use the workshop as therapy to get over it. Smart. We also arranged that we'll do a paternity test while I'm in New York, just to make sure he's definitely my father. December 2012. I walk into his apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan for the first time, and we hug, and our bond is cemented even further. I look around his apartment, and then I see it, an object of great beauty dangling from the ceiling above his minibar. A mirror ball. It reminds me of the old days when I used to go dancing at Studio 54, he says proudly. And I know right then and there, he is definitely my father. You see, between them, both Sylvia and Saeed passed on a genetic deep predisposition to me and my sister for glitter, sparkle, and disco. I was literally born this way. Over the next decade, I get to know Saeed even more, and our bond deepens, we grow closer, until he died in December last year. I learned that he, his brother, and his father, just before the revolution in Iran, were on a kill list. A family friend who is a police officer tipped them off, said, "You need to leave the country or you're going to die." Saeed grabbed a suitcase, flew to New York, where he lived ever since. His brother and his father trekked through the mountains to Switzerland, where they lived. They lost their homes, most of their wealth, and their businesses, and started anew. I learned more about my family background and the vibrant Persian heritage that I'd so vehemently rejected for so long. And I found out that Saeed had actually tried to find Sylvia and Lisa twice, once in the 1970s and again in the 90s through private investigators, but to no avail. It's easy to get caught up in our stories. We repeat them so often to ourselves and to others that we believe they're the one and only truth. The idea that there could be more to the story can be deeply uncomfortable. Taking a risk can leave you vulnerable, open to disappointment and rejection. But it can also open the door to something rich and rewarding. Finding the courage to make that phone call that day changed my life forever. And it reminded me that we all have the capacity to rewrite our story, no matter how it started. Thank you.